start the meeting, and I'm assuming that the Telesco I see is there. Does Telesco have any questions on who's on the call so far? Not raising any, so let's move forward. So you're going to take roll call, and as people do come on, which we expect a few more to show up, please duly note them. All right, Alan, do you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice for all. As you work.
We've had, over the last month or so, some public and others from within talking about conflicts of interest. And I want to, before we go into application review, and part of it's going to be starting the application review with Doc's permission, I want to talk about conflict a little bit. And we all have to be very, very aware of that. We're very transparent. We are out, all of us, for the public good. And I believe, big picture, we purported ourselves in that manner. And one of the motions that was put forward last month, which actually mirrored another motion that was put forward a month or two before, was done in such a way that it could have the appearance, not that it is the intent, but the appearance of a conflict. So I'll get to that second. Conflicts are easy to ascertain, and you just have to think from what within your own conscience, whether you're may be looked at as whatever you're doing as a conflict. For example, we have Deputy Harbor Master coming up, and it was pointed out to me by the people and others that, for example, Jeff Mangels put in, he had an interest of exploring going to be Deputy Harbor Master. Peter Johnson from the Shellfish Commission wanted to explore becoming Deputy Harbor Master. And there have been others too, as well, that do have, because of their attachment to the Harbor Commission in many different ways, that would pose a conflict of interest. So because, you know, we dictate what goes on, what happens, put their names forward. They may be preferenced because they're on the commission, that kind of scenario. So that creates conflict. So moving to the second part of it, the motion that Lori put forward last month, which was a mirror image of another motion that was put forward, could be construed as a conflict. But we have first of all, I'd ask Lori to take back that motion from last month. Lori Jones.
Sorry, John, did you just ask me if we had taken back that motion?
No, I'm asking you to take back the motion that you put in.
Okay, I just want to ask you a question. The reason it would be a conflict of interest is because it involved Norwalk Yacht Club, of which I'm a member.
Correct.
Because it was a mirror motion, and because we don't even have a boat in the harbor, so it doesn't affect us personally or financially, I question a little bit whether it's a conflict, but I also understand how it could be construed that way since I'm a member of that yacht club.
Yeah, sometimes it's not an actual reality, it's a perception that may be
Right.
taking place. And I did say that you just mirrored another motion that was done a couple of months before. And
Right.
So, and I can understand your point of view of doing it that way, but it should have been put forward by someone else. And the reason why I'm asking you to take it back, because it had a little more language than what Deep actually approved. Okay, and I want to read that into the minutes.
Okay.
So everybody has an understanding. So if you will rescind that motion.
Okay, so my recollection is that the motion was to extend this season of when the moorings were in the water by a month earlier and a month later, in keeping with what the commission approved for Rowayton Yacht Club, the neighboring yacht club that shares the same waters.
Okay, and who seconded that motion? Do you remember who the second was?
I think Jeff was. Is that right, Jeff?
I thought it was Alan personally.
No, I don't think Alan was even on that meeting.
I was on that meeting. No,
Okay,
Yeah, I can't remember if I did.
all right, but
I watched it today, and I think Jeff, you did.
okay, so
Watch the
Jeff,
video.
and second, you want to rescind your second?
I will rescind my second. Thank you.
Okay, so I need someone to second a motion that I'm gonna put up, that motion that was put forward by Lori at our last meeting will now be rescinded, subject to the actual Deep permit, which was issued. And so there's no ambiguity, there's no, it was a Deep determination at the end of the day that what the reality is for that. Will somebody second that motion? And then I'll read into the minutes the approval.
Are we echoing Lori's? Are you altering the one that we're rescinding, or are we echoing it?
We're rescinding it
Yes.
because it's moot, because Deep did a determination and did approve their permit with their own conditions and their own outline.
Okay.
Okay, and so what I'm gonna do is I'll read you the approval so everybody can understand what happened. Licensee enclosures and conditions, the licensee, and also keep in mind, this is the exact modification that was done for Rowayton Yacht Club as well.
Right.
They're both mirrored. And I guess that's what probably what they're moving forward is going to be, to mirror these things. So we don't have this place have this, that place has that. We have continuity throughout. Yes, Jeff?
Just to clarify, John, the Deep recognized that both clubs should be treated in the same manner as Lori mentioned, but they felt that condition regarding rotating removal of moorings from the natural shellfish beds that they had approved for the Norwalk Yacht Club was appropriate for the Rowayton Yacht Club, and Deep went back after the fact and modified the Rowayton Yacht Club permit to have the same language, and therefore both approvals would be consistent.
Right.
If you don't have that, I have that here, John.
Yeah, no, I have it here.
Okay.
Licensee enclosures and conditions. The licensee shall comply with all applicable terms and conditions as may be stipulated within the licensures listed above. So this is both for Norwalk Yacht Club and Rowayton Yacht Club. License expiration, mooring installation authorized pursuant to the authorized activities above is valid until March 5th, 2032, 10 years from the expiration date. Yearly mooring removal and inspection. The licensee shall remove moorings located within shellfish beds no later than October 31st of any calendar year. Shall not install such moorings until April 15th of any calendar year. John, would you please, I need to get something to drink. Would you please read the rest of it into the minutes?
I'm trying to figure where you left off, John. It says before April 15th of any calendar year, the moorings located outside of the authorized shellfish beds may remain in the water year-round, except as required pursuant to paragraph 6. I have here. The licensee shall continue to haul and inspect all moorings and tackle as required pursuant to the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan. And in paragraph 6 is added, regarding shellfish harvesting accommodations to allow licensed shellfishermen and seed oystermen access to shellfish resources on the natural shellfish beds within the mooring field. The licensee shall institute a mooring inspection and maintenance program by dividing the mooring field into quadrants. When the moorings in each quadrant are inspected and maintained, such quadrant shall remain free of moorings for a 60-day period during the off-season to allow access to shellfish resources. The licensee shall inform the Norfolk Shellfish Commission of the coordinates of the quadrant that is available for access to shellfish. Period.
Okay, so, but there's another little part to that regarding the pump out station, because that's come up as an issue and a problem. Can you read that one too? I think it's number 6, John, please.
I don't have that right here in front of me, John. I just got.
Okay, so I'll read that into the record as well. Pump out services. Prior to stationing boats on any moorings authorized herein, the licensee shall install a stationary pump out on the dock closest to the navigation fairway and submit to the commissioner photographs, documentation of such installation. The pump out shall be maintained and serviceable whenever boats are in the water on this site. There is an alternative, which they're doing now. Alternatively, on or before March 1st of every year, the licensee shall enter into a contract to obtain the services of a marine sewage pump out boat for the purposes of providing pump out services to the boat owners within the facility. Licensee shall post signs on the docking facility stating that these services are available and provide pump out contact information no later than March 14th of any calendar year. The licensee shall provide a copy of such agreements to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection at DEEP and to the Clean Vessel Act Coordinator at DEEP Boating. And there's other language, but all the marine, your marina and row 8 has been sent all this information, but I just wanted it read into the record because there's been some information floating around that they're in violation by not having the pump out station permanently installed. And this gives the alternative which you are using. So now that part is clear to everyone. Any questions? All right, so then let's move forward into application review. Okay, Doc, you're on.
Okay.
Well, are you proposing that as the motion, John?
Well, yeah, well,
That's how we started this. That's what I'm curious.
yeah, well, we can, let's do that formally then. I put that motion forward. I need a second to it.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
I think just as a precedent, John, what you touched about for the conflict of interest, and I've thought about this because, I come from Village Creek. Several of the people here are from various different clubs around. And just as principle, I think we should, abstain from any motion that affects a club we're a member of or a homeowners association that we pay. Because if you pay dues to a club, your dues are based on, the financial standing of your club. And any vote, we make votes that affect the financial standing and the expenses of a club. And I think that's what we're getting at. So I think just as a principle, we should all, understand and agree. And that is, I think, the law that, if something affects a club or a homeowner association we're a member of, we should abstain. I'm never quite clear on the difference between abstaining and recusing. I think recusing, you're not supposed to participate in the discussion at all. But in any eventuality, we shouldn't vote on something that affects a club you're a member of.
I mean, realistically, you should be recusing yourself. And
Yes.
that means actually getting off the call and then be invited back in, or leaving the room, then
Right.
be invited back in. Because just your influence alone, if you're a person that's highly respected, people may go along with you because they want to make you happy, or, you you guys go to lunch a lot or talk a lot.
Right.
And that peer pressure scenario shouldn't come into play in any of our doings. Big picture. Jeff, you wanted to add something?
No, I'm not, certainly not an attorney, but in the past, we have had discussions about this. Remember going back with Attorney Maslin, and we haven't had a presentation on this from the law department about these, about the ethics codes. But I remember, and also it's come up in other towns, but yes, if there's a perceived conflict and a member recuses themselves, they're not to participate in the discussion because their participation could influence the votes of other members. But it's also up to the individual member to declare that conflict and to recuse themselves. But
well, I asked the law department to come and give us a little yada, 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 like Bob did many years ago.
yeah,
And I think they have procedures that they want to do it for a whole bunch of different commissions and groups. So, I mean, Michelle will keep us.
right. And the concern
Press to
is that is if there's someone in the public who's got a concern or an interest about an action before the commission, they can make a complaint to the city ethics commission or to the state ethics commission and therefore have cast doubt on the commission's actions.
Yeah, well, I'd rather err on the side of caution and not put ourselves in that position.
Yeah.
Because each and every one of you should be very proud of your selfless involvement within this commission, because our commission is, I'm going to make a bold statement, one of the best and purest, because we're not political at all. Everything that we do is for the public good. We're the watch guards of our waters and everything that happens around it. Our responsibility are wide and varied, down to the drinking water, the fish and wildlife in our area, our shellfish industry, which we're part of being a watch guard for them, and water safety. Water safety is extremely important and paramount, and we weigh in on and advocate for buoys. We advocate for safety, like between the walk bridge, how objectionable that will be and could be a catastrophe in the making. And we're out there advocating to keep our water safe, our citizens protected, our industry protected, and at the same time, we're threading that fine line. And John will talk further on that with what's going on with the hearings with the DOT, with the walk bridge, and the reneging on all our agreements. So, John, anybody else have any questions before we move forward?
I just
Artie?
want to ask John Crespo to mark my vote as an abstention on that last vote. I raised my hand, but I shouldn't have, so.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's the right thing.
Just for the minutes. Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
it's important on the record.
Yeah, and I was not attending that meeting, so I abstained as well.
Okay, moving forward, John. Doc, go.
Dennis, you had a question? I thought you raised your hand. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted. Ben.
I was not at that meeting also. I just remembered, so you probably should exclude me as well.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Well, moving forward to application review. We have only one application. It's a CAM application. It came in a few days ago, and I know most of you have not had a chance, but I think Tim Rath, she's here, and is it Ms. Baker as well?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, well, the application is involving 9 Twilight Place. Now, is this is around Harbor View?
Yes.
So, I don't know, Chris, is that your area of interest?
No, Village Creek, it's
Oh,
nearby, but it's not my neighborhood.
Oh, okay, all right. And I'm sorry. All right, so the application is a CAM application, and the proposed project shall replace a non-flood compliant single-family dwelling with a FEMA and a FEMA compliant single-family dwelling that will be constructed with flood resilient methods and materials following best management practices. The proposed dwelling will be built above the 100-year flood two elevations, and the silt fence will be act as a barrier to protect the waterfront from all construction activity. The project will involve minimal change to existing grade contours and drainage patterns. There's an installation of a new stormwater management system and construction of a new dwelling above the floodplain. And I've asked Mr. Rath to come in and maybe give an overview of his proposal. And again, if anyone has any particular questions of him, he is here to address those.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. Basically, we want to build a new home on almost the existing footprint of the old home, but make it a flood compliant to the proper elevation to eliminate any flood problems we've had over the years at the property. There's a seawall around the whole property, so there'll be no encroachment on the waters of any way or type. Also, there'd be a silt fence during the
Getting some sort of
construction time.
echo, Mr. Rath. I don't know. Does anyone have?
Sorry.
There's some sort of echo
Lori,
going.
turn the volume off on that. Okay, sorry.
It might be helpful for if you guys are both in the same house.
Right.
It might be easier for both of you to be on the same screen and just close out one of the ones you have up.
I apologize for that.
Okay.
Let me start over again. Basically, what we would just want to replace an existing house with a flood compliant that is raised to similar, the flood elevation that is necessary for the new building codes. We'll also be installing a wastewater drainage system that will collect all the runoff, which there's none at the present time due to it's an older home. That's pretty much it. There'll be no encroachment on the water or anything like that. As I was mentioning, there's an old seawall around the whole property, so we wouldn't extend anywhere near past that. I don't know if you have any questions or anything else I can help you with.
Well,
I want to make a comment. That's probably one of the most gorgeous pieces of property in size, and love to see the home when it's done.
Well, you're more than welcome. I'll have you all over if you like.
I know I had a chance to review. It's a very well proposed project. And again, as far as the contouring and the stormwater runoff, that's certainly things that we absolutely support. Chris, you had a chance to, I don't know, do you have any questions? I know I sent you a copy of that. You're the only one. You're muted, Chris.
I also sent it to Bill.
Yeah, Chris, you're muted.
Chris still muted.
McDonald,
Alt-A.
muted.
Use Alt-A.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry. I was on the other screen trying to look at the drawings real quick. No, I didn't get a chance to really take a dive on it. So I don't have any comments.
Yeah, as I said, I at first glance, I didn't see any. Again, we reviewed several of these types of applications before, and again, with the Coltech system that you plan in place, the drainage system that you have indicated on that proposal, I find no problem with finding it consistent with the harbor management plan. We do have some boilerplate comments that we do make with regard to impact that we like to see with regard to stormwater runoff from impervious, surfaces, et cetera. We also support, again, some of the best management practices with regard to, as you point out, putting a silt fence around the construction area to prevent any debris going into Norwalk Harbor. And so those are basically some of the overall comments that we usually add to that application response that we give. So I'd like to place some, Jeff?
Mr. Rath, are you the engineer or the owner of the property?
I'm the owner of the property. We've hired a field engineer, a structural engineer, they've doubled on the reports and everything, yes.
So but you would attest that this project will improve the current stormwater conditions on the site?
Absolutely. There's
They have a document by professional.
So I think with that attesting to that you would find that the proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan. And if there are subsurface stormwater collection or treatment facilities, we would also recommend that as a condition of approval, there be a condition of perpetual maintenance.
Yeah, they have that incorporated in the
Yeah,
application.
I think those would be
There's a maintenance schedule that they have. So as I said, it has all the accommodations that we would look for in an application. I thought it was very nicely done, Mr.
So
Rath.
it would be consistent with the plan for those reasons. I would.
Yes, sir.
That's correct. So with that in mind, as I said, I'd like to put a motion forward that we find the application, the CAM application for 9 Twilight Place consistent with the harbor management plan. And we will put our comments that we had pointed out with regard to our conditions and recommendations in that letter, which deals primarily with, supporting, the stormwater runoff, good management practices with regard to construction, and that the maintenance program be in place. So that's basically our comment, or I'd like to put forward that comment.
Is that a motion, John?
That's a motion.
I'll second.
All right, and all those in favor? All right, aye. Moving forward. Mr. Rath, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen and ma'am.
Good luck with you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too now.
You too.
Take care.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah, the next item of action is sort of a discussion that we'd like to have with regard to the petition that the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission put forward actually about 2 weeks ago. And we submitted a letter, a petition to the governor's office. I'm sorry, to DEEP. We were in contact with the hearing officer, and we submitted concerns that we had with regard to the application that the DOT had put forward. And we certainly had several comments that we have outlined. Those comments amount to dealing with water quality, dealing with the vessel relocation between the 2 bridges, and building of the bulkhead on 68 Water Street, and some of the other water dependent uses. And then the condition that we, again, would require in close communication with our harbor master and emergency service providers with regard to movement in the harbor during the construction process, and the mooring of the barges during the period of work, and the work vessels, and the use also of Manresa Island. So those are the main categories that we had outlined that we need to address some of the conditions. And what we have done so far is I don't know if I can read the letter, but we had sent the hearing officer our comments and our concerns in a little bit more elaborate detail, but we need to elaborate a little bit more on the type of conditions that we need to set up. And I thought we would perhaps put forward a motion to indicate that. I'm sorry, did you have your hand, Jeff?
Well, before you, if you don't mind, John, just to go back over the status of where things stand with the Walk Bridge permitting. The public notice of DEEP's intention to approve the permit for the Walk Bridge was issued on November 15th, with the public comments due actually on Christmas Day. So the bulk of the comment period fell with it between the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. But there was a provision for petitioning for a public hearing with a petition with 25 signatures would trigger a mandatory public hearing. So the commission, and on behalf of both the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission, a petition was submitted for a hearing with the necessary signatures. But prior to our petition, another petition was submitted by representing, as we understand it, property neighborhoods in the vicinity of Manresa Island. So the hearing was already required before we submitted our petition. Then on January 5th, I believe, the first part of the public hearing process, which is a status conference, was convened. And the status conference is for the purpose of setting the schedule and the ground rules for the public hearing. Now, the parties, and that has a legal definition to the hearing, are the DOT, which of course wants the permit, and the DEEP, which has expressed its interest to issue the permit. So those are the legal parties. Although we petition for a hearing, we don't have any special standing in the process, absent some sort of legal intervention, and that has its own requirements. So we participate. John is the spokesperson submitted comments as to the commission's concern and history for reviewing the application, and also made clear that the purpose in submitting the petition was not to oppose or delay the project, but rather we felt that since this is the most significant construction project affecting Norwalk in 60+ years, it deserves the fullest public review that's possible under the law. And that includes the public hearing. And we also submitted the general overview of the concerns that we had, and that the proposed conditions that would be included in the permit, we felt are insufficient for protecting the public's interest in Norwalk Harbor and achieving the consistency with the harbor management plan. So the dates that were set for key dates in the hearing process, on February 10th, there will be a site visit to the site of the walk bridge. But that will not be for the purpose of asking questions. It's for the purpose of the hearing officer familiarizing herself with the site. The actual public comment hearing will be on February 23rd. And the deadline for written comments will be on February 28th. Now, there are also some other meetings that involve the parties and introduction of evidence and testimony of witnesses to support the project. So the hearing process is underway, and we thought that it would be appropriate at this time for the commission to approve a motion, a preliminary motion that would set the stage for other things. But to say that the commission has reviewed the proposed draft conditions included in the proposed by DEP for inclusion in the walk bridge permit, and finds that those proposed conditions are insufficient for protecting the public interest in Norwalk Harbor and in achieving consistency with the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan. And specifically that the commission is concerned that the proposed conditions don't adequately address the commission's previously expressed concerns with respect to protecting water quality, maintaining public navigation safety during construction, planning for bulkheading along the proposed Water Street Marine staging area, encouraging future water-dependent development, establishing and maintaining coordination with the harbor master and local emergency services, meaning the police and fire department, managing barge mooring locations, and protecting the quality of life in shorefront residential areas adjoining Manresa Island. And therefore, accordingly, the commission resolves to submit during the public hearing process detailed recommendations to strengthen the proposed permit conditions for the purpose of protecting the public interest in achieving consistency with the harbor management plan. And that would set the basis we're suggesting for the commission to develop the specific recommendations to submit in writing at the close of the comment period. And I think it's also interesting to note that John, as the spokesperson, John Pinto, for the commission and the Shellfish Commission, inquired of the hearing officer just yesterday about whether we can continue to communicate with DEP during this process, to ask questions as to why they took the approach they have to the conditions. And we received a response back right away saying that we could continue communication with DEEP. And then we received a communication from DEEP expressing willingness to meet with us to address our conditions. We also asked where the recording of the status conference could be found, and we're told that the status conference wasn't recorded. And we also asked why it was not, the hearing was not posted on the DEP website. And the hearing officer said she would look into that. And then, of course, this afternoon it was posted on the website.
It was copied by DEEP.
Yeah.
DEEP did that.
So that we thought that our job, of course, role is not to hold up the project, but to do a proper review as provided by law. And for example, one one example of an inadequacy, and there are others, is that the conditions have do not specify the need for the applicant or the licensee to coordinate with the police department or the harbor master during construction. And although the permit authorizes the mooring of work vessels and barges during the work, it doesn't mention the harbor master's authority to station all vessels, and therefore the need for a permit from the harbor master. And there are other matters too, including that the conditions, or the permit conditions, do not require water quality monitoring during the construction, as we had understood that it would. So those are all matters that we feel we can make good recommendations to strengthen. But again, it's up to the hearing officer it's up to us to, based on logic and backup to convince the hearing officer that these conditions should be strengthened. So,
If the commission pleases, I can send them a synopsis of each one, of each one of the topic areas that we had covered. If you would like to review those yourself and perhaps make comment on your own, and then send them back to us, you can do that. But we would like to get a motion together, indicating the inadequacy of the application and move forward with what we have so far.
And then we'll move forward with developing the detailed recommendations to strengthen
I can send those out this evening,
conditions.
and just review them. There's about, as a matter of fact, the topic areas just cover just what we talked about: water quality, particularly vessel relocation. We have water dependent uses, and then we have the coordination with the harbor master and emergency services, barge mooring, and then Manresa Island. There's about 6 conditions that we have outlined here. We've got a short synopsis of what our approach is going to be and what our concerns are. And as I said, if each one of you'd like to add to that, your thoughts to that, feel free. Again, we have to put something together in writing and submit that to the hearing officer.
Is the deadline for the submission of that the 28th of February?
For the written?
Yeah, these are the comment that would fall under that deadline, right? What we're doing?
We were suggesting that tonight,
Yeah.
the commission approve a motion expressing the concern and saying that we'll move forward to develop the detailed recommendations to address those concerns.
Right, but the detailed recommendations are, so well, the other thing I wanted to know is that public hearing is on the 23rd, which is our next meeting. Would that public hearing be in the evening? Would it actually conflict with our meeting? And should we accommodate that somehow?
I think the public hearing is in the afternoon.
But that's an interesting point. Because we can make our comments, I say we, the commission, at that public comment hearing, but we still have until the 28th to make to submit the final, our final written comments. And there have been examples or instances in other hearings in other towns where the hearing officer has recognized that the commission has a special standing in these hearings that's different than the general public because of the existence of the harbor management plan. And so other towns have asked for extensions of the comment period in order for the commission to be able to review comments made by the general public at the public comment hearing. Now, we would be able to, in this instance, the commission is meeting the same day, but we may want to consider requesting an extension of the written comment period because that would be consistent with what DEEP has done in other instances. But we don't know that yet, Chris. But
no, well, I guess I was so yeah. I'm not objecting to like us stating our intentions, right? In this meeting, but I was just wondering what the timeline was for the written comments and how, and I checked quickly and just to see, when our next meeting was in relation to all that. So,
well, one of the things I wanted to get across, I would like Michelle to send out the link to specifically for our public hearing on Deep's website to all the harbor members, all the shellfish members, and all the water quality members, so they can weigh in on it. And I'm going to encourage everyone on this call and others that get disseminated with the information to reach out to boat clubs and any water users, anybody that could be potentially affected, to pay close attention to this, weigh in on it. And I'm going to ask Bruce also to jump in on this, because this is right in his bailiwick. And the thing that's most disheartening is that we spent dozens of meetings, not a few, dozens of meetings over a 5-6 year period, made all kinds of commitments, spoke to consultants. We had calls with all of us and all the other involved commissions, reached out to experts, spent money on consultants, all of this to come to an understanding, because we started getting all this information, as we all know, in snippets. And then snippets became a whole package of numerous pages that were impossible to disseminate as a submission, with the guarantee and the promise that we would be able to put and discuss any and all of our concerns and put in conditions. And all of that seems to have gone by the wayside, looking for this mass approval without, if we didn't have a public hearing. Steve?
Yeah, and just to add to that, so I think it's also important to note, just piggybacking on that comment, John, that they Deep accepted 2 separate applications without our commentary, Shellfish and Harbor, blank.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the system is getting skewed in some ways, and Deep, to their credit, they're overwhelmed and overburdened. Jeff?
Well, it's also will be an interesting jurisdictional or authority question to be addressed in this matter, because the statutes concerning the stationing of vessels refer to the harbor master as the sole authority or the final authority.
Correct.
And so regarding the vessel relocation plans and also the mooring of vessels.
And it's a federal channel, and the Coast Guard has agreed to go by whatever findings and dictates that our harbor master puts out there.
But it's very interesting, because in asserting the harbor master's sole authority, how will Deep respond to that? But that's part of this process, to make the process work and to do what's best for the public.
Yeah, you have to realize that the harbor masters are now under control of Deep.
But the harbor master is not under control of Deep. The harbor master is appointed by the governor and has authorities under the general statutes. But by having Deep provide oversight, that doesn't change the general statutes.
No, but you remember
what I mean, John?
We were at one meeting where a comment was made that they would be able to override any, and that's what sort of got the hair on the back of our neck standing up.
Well, then let them say that, and then
that's what I'm concerned about, because they're holding that little ace card.
Well, but
No, to be continued, Jeff.
To be continued.
To be continued.
So a couple questions. What the draft conditions? I haven't seen those. Is that part of the information?
I'm going to send you that.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've reviewed the EIA. I can't remember those.
I'll send you what was sent to the hearing officer.
Okay.
These are paragraphs, each one dealing with the isolated items that we have concerns over.
What Chris is looking for is the actual draft conditions.
The draft condition, what was issued by Deep?
In the draft permit. So that's a document that can be sent to everyone as well.
Yeah. I mean, is it something that's been distributed, or is that something you think that's on the website? It's on the public websites.
We downloaded a copy of it. It can be emailed to everyone.
All right. Yeah. If you can email it, yeah. email it to everybody. I'll look for it myself. I can usually find those things.
But
So is, procedural question, Jeff, is this an adjudicatory hearing or is this just a public hearing? Is this?
It's an adjudicatory hearing with.
Okay, yeah.
Assigned hearing officer and rules of practice that apply.
Okay.
I mean,
So
there's a site meeting.
Deep in DOT, both
February.
have the lawyers all lined up.
First, there's a site meeting by the adjudicator for February 10th. You'll see that on the website, on the schedules.
Right.
And we can all participate and go there, although they would like to see it as a limited amount of people. But we cannot have any exchange of other than, hi, how are you? How's the weather? Would you like a cup of coffee? We cannot dig in or address our take, how we see things.
Right. Yeah. They don't want us. They don't want anybody spinning it. Yeah. Yep.
So she just wants an up close and personal, captured by the eye, what the area is like, and then which will familiarize her when comments are made at the public hearing.
Right. And a couple comments and questions about like what we're at, the actual topics we're dealing here. I mean, in terms of the mooring, I mean, and I'm not questioning our harbor master's responsibility to coordinate and, assign mooring places, but at the same time, a federally dredged, area, which our harbor is an open access to all, correct? I mean, if there's space for a barge, we can't deny, if we've leased out the entire mooring field for the season, they can't come in July and say, we want to put a barge in if there's no room for it. But if they wanted to come in February and anchor a barge in the federally dredged anchorage basin, we would need actual cause to deny them, correct?
It's safe placement. There are a lot of different issues.
Sure.
That arise. If it's going to be placed where it's going to interfere with, let's say, Bob Kunkel's deliveries of his product, that they're blocking him from having access. I mean, that becomes.
No, yeah, sure. I mean, we're talking about, I think we all know the difference between a channel and the anchorage basins.
Don't forget, even in the wintertime, there's traffic that comes down.
Sure, that you can never anchor in a channel. That's also law. But in the anchorage basins themselves, we would have to have cause to deny them. If there wasn't enough space for it.
At the end of the day, we're not being adversarial whatsoever.
No.
We're very pro helping them and being part of what happens. We just want it done in an orderly, informative fashion. We can't have them wake up one morning and say, well, this is where we're going to put it.
Yeah.
We think this is better, without consulting with the harbor manager.
They can't drop anchor at well. Yeah. So, yeah. And the other, and I'll just bring this up and I'll comment more on this later. But in terms of the water quality and the deep proposal, I reviewed, the DOT, HNTB's, environmental things, and they really do not cover the demolition and disposal of the bridge at all. Whether it's, where's this going to be broken down, where's it going to be cut up, and the lead. The reason that bridge has never been painted is because they didn't want to deal with the lead paint over the water. So that bridge has never been, to my knowledge, it's never been de-leaded. It is what it is.
It's containment when they're doing the operation. How are they going to contain?
Right, and there's no language in there. There's no language in their environmental documents about that at all. Where it's going to happen, how it's going to be contained. Are they going to try to do it on the removal barge? Are they going to ship it, as a truss? They're going to. I think one of the thoughts now is they might cut it up in halves. I don't know what their current plan is in terms of how they're going to dispose of the old truss, or the new truss in play. The approach spans are also going to be demolished and cut apart in pieces over Water Street and everything else. That's easier to contain. But if they're going to float out the existing truss, they have to break it down somewhere, and that is not covered anywhere in the documents in any way, shape, or form. I think that's a real omission on their part.
These are some of the comments that certainly would be added to the statements that we need to make. Yes. I agree.
Just
Jeff?
in response to Chris's comments quickly, the first comments concerning the moorings wasn't so much that we want to oppose what's being suggested or allowed in the deep permit. It's just that the state statute is very clear that no one can place a mooring in the harbor without a permit from the harbor master.
Right.
So, that doesn't exclude moorings placed in a federal anchorage. What's been done in the permit is not recognize the harbor master's authority to review the placement. And of the 3 mooring areas that were permitted by, or would be permitted by deep, one is within the south anchorage.
right.
One is outside in the outer harbor, not in a federal anchorage, and the other is alongside the channel on the west side of Veterans Park. So we're not making any judgment on those. We're just saying that it overlooks the statute that makes clear the harbor master has to issue a permit. It doesn't mean he has to issue a permit for what the applicant wants, but they can't place a mooring without a permit. The other thing about the water quality, our concern is that in the draft conditions, there is no reference to the turbidity units or the measures of the thresholds that can't be exceeded, and there is no requirement for monitoring during the construction work. So one of the questions we have to discuss with DEEP is why, after all of the discussions we've had and the work we've done, did they decide not to include monitoring during the project?
Jeff, does it mention the tide cycles? Because we had that.
No, there's no mention of monitoring during the work.
No, there was a tide cycle requirement too. That was able to get.
No, that's not mentioned. About working only on the incoming tide.
Correct.
No, that's not.
Yeah, because that's paramount, because we allowed them in negotiation and conversation. Shellfish wanted 40 degrees of water. That was one thing. And they condescended, and based on their science, they said up to 50 degrees.
Well, there's already been a dredging permit issued, correct, for the advanced work, and that language was in there, right, for this advanced cable replacement work that they're doing. Now, I know there's going to be dredging involved in the general project.
Right. But also, let me continue, Chris.
Sorry, go ahead.
Part of the other agreement was that they would only do it on incoming tides going upriver, not downriver, which will permeate anything that does get dredged up and could contaminate the shellfish beds. So that has to be a hard condition, which they agreed to. And we're not asking them big picture for anything that they have not agreed to already in all of our meetings and conversations.
Right.
It's just glaring that it's missing in this application.
Does this application include the dredging portions as well? Do we know that?
I think it's all encompassing.
It's all included.
Okay, yeah. So that would be the dredging, not just work in general, right? You're talking about dredging, correct? Right, John? Or are you talking about
the dredging the middle console, and then there are other areas around that harbor, where they're going to be putting some of the pilots.
Where the turnstile is, and all of it. They were going to limit their work to incoming tides, not outgoing. So that those are the parameters that they agreed to. And also they agreed that we would have harbor and or police presence during all the hours of operation, because there are rowers, boaters, fishermen, transient
tugboats.
Yeah, all that stuff that's going on that will need, other than their safety boat. I mean, for a timely safety reaction scenario. So all of that was glaringly left out of what we negotiated and what we all felt comfortable with, including them, because they agreed to it. They had the contractor, I think it would come out of, he would be actually paying the bills, the general contractor. So,
All right, well, let's move forward. Jeff, the motion that we discussed earlier, could you just maybe give a quick review on that and we can take a vote on that and move forward?
The motion that we had discussed
Yeah,
prior to the meeting and also that I had read was to summarize that the commission has reviewed the proposed conditions included in the draft permit for the walk bridge and finds they are insufficient for protecting the public interest in Norwalk Harbor and achieving project consistency with the harbor management plan. And specifically, we are concerned that the conditions do not adequately address the Harbor Commission's previously expressed concerns with regard to 1, protecting water quality, 2, maintaining public navigation safety during construction, 3, planning for bulkheading along the proposed Water Street Marine staging area, 4, encouraging future water-dependent development, 5, establishing and maintaining coordination with the harbor master and local emergency services, 6, managing barge mooring locations, and 7, protecting the quality of life in shorefront residential areas adjoining Manresa Island. And then accordingly, the commission resolves to submit detailed recommendations for strengthening the proposed permit conditions.
all right, that motion was put forward by John Pinto. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second that
Can I-
motion.
All right, seconded by Jeff. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
okay. All right, everyone, no, thank you very much. Just as, not to be a spoiler alert, we've only touched the tip of one iceberg because we also have Eversource to deal with too.
That's not on the table yet, but it's
And
very oftenly
they want
under
to keep
the,
it under the table.
but
Under the table.
it's been under the table for quite some time. Now we just need to get it on the table so we can address it.
They've been more elusive. I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing how they've been dodging. All right. Any event. All right. So application review complete.
Okay, thank you, John. Good job. Chairman's report, I really gave it because the real thing that I was going to address was the conflict, and I think we handled it in a very amicable way. And you know, we'll just move forward with it and keep that in mind. And, you know, if someone points out a conflict, please take it to heart, and it's not trying to make an issue out of a mountain out of a molehill. It's just that what others may perceive. Let's see. Staff reports. Harbor Master. Michelle, would you kindly in future minutes remove Greg Scully because he's happily, according to him, in Virginia playing with excavation tools that he bought and being a gentleman farmer and enjoying his life, which is really great, and put Bruce at the moment as acting harbor master because we're still waiting for the actual edict to come down, and sometimes they take a little bit of time.
Yeah, we made those statements to DEP, so there's an adjustment now. So Bruce, you know, you have been, Greg has been taken off the DEP's daisy chain of line of communication, and Bruce is now in charge.
Yeah,
Thank you,
once we have Bruce's confirmation, then we'll address the deputy scenario because we're in that limbo area because officially he's deputy, and yet because Greg is not here, he's acting harbor master. Yes, Jeff?
Yes, and what we learned is that although Bruce is not formally appointed by the governor as harbor master yet, he has all of the powers and duties of the harbor master.
Absolutely.
And when he is appointed, it will be for a new term, not to complete Greg's term.
Correct.
But that's
all good.
all right.
All right. Jeff, do you have anything else you want to bring into the table, onto the table?
You're talking to me, John? Or-
Yes.
The only thing I might mention is that we continue to talk with the Connecticut Port Authority about the availability of grant funds for harbor infrastructure projects. And the representative of the Port Authority said that their next round of grant notices of next round of grant availability will be forthcoming. He didn't give me a precise time, but we should be prepared to submit an application for a project that could be funded by the Port Authority. And they have a significant amount of money that they've been authorized to spend throughout Connecticut each of the next 5 years. And as we were told, that their preference is that a grant application should come from the Harbor Management Commission, and that we should make the connection between what we're proposing and the policies of the Harbor Management Plan. So I think we should continue to think about this, John, because
well, we need to think about it, but the city in itself has specific needs that they're looking to accomplish. So I would task Michelle, if you don't mind, is to take the language that we just used that Jeff put forward, particularly the fact that the preference from the people that have the money that want to give it out, that whatever grants happen go through the Harbor Commission with its input and submission. So if you could pass that along and tell them that let's start working on this earlier than later, so we're ready and we have all the right language and all the right plans and everything that we'll need to submit with the application.
And grants are available for both planning and design and permitting, as well as construction. So, but again, well, let's just see if we can get some ideas of what to submit, because other towns are thinking about it too. So the sooner we have a project that's and they also emphasize that the dollar amount that we're requesting is properly supported, not just an estimate, but that we have a good rationale for what the money we're asking for. But that's the only thing I have to say, John.
I think the other thing we have to add is that they don't look at planning proposals as high priority. Look at what we submitted previous to that. They did not.
Yeah, but the language, the way it was submitted, didn't have the proper documentation in terms of what the cost of the study.
Well, that,
just a broad stroke blanket.
Putting a study together is not what they look at as a project, and that's going to be.
They have to see an RFP that goes with it.
Low on their priority. It's low on their priority scale.
But if it had an RFP with it that specifically put it out, I'm sure they would weigh in on it.
Well, I'll tell you one project that's clearly fundable is the improvements in the East Norwalk for the East Norwalk Marina.
Yes.
Once the city is able to get the permits or whatever they have to do to improve that's clearly a fundable project from the Connecticut Port Authority.
Right, and the RFP is in progress, so.
The design is in progress. It's
the design rather, yeah.
So you should be able to write a grant for that now. I mean, you don't have a final cost to complete construction cost, but you can certainly write a grant you can probably get a range of, the construction cost range from DPW for that, certainly from Race Soon.
They said we can't do that unless we have, or we're close to getting the permit, because they're not going to process and issue a grant without the permit in place or pretty good assurances that it's about to be in place. Because
on that particular project, the last meeting we attended, Jeff, they said this is going to happen most likely for the 2023 year. So
I mean, what about keeping in mind, guys, renovation of street ends, Jeff?
Yeah, I know. I gotta do something with that. I'm just wondering,
those would be ideal too.
Yeah, I'm just, if you're DPW and you're running that project and you want to get this thing constructed next winter, are you going to wait for the permit and then wait for the application and wait for the grant? You can't do that. The timeline wouldn't allow for, a post deep, structure dredging and fill application, and then, writing a grant and waiting on the Port Authority to give you the money when you have to ask for the money from the general fund to get it done, if you need to get it done this winter.
I think they already have that money plugged into the system. So they're in the process of moving forward on it.
Yeah, and so then
Yeah.
we don't rely on the Port Authority for the funding because that.
Well, and I don't think they are now. I think we're trying to like help the city out with this. But if the Port Authority injects them, I think we try to get the money when we need it, and not I don't know.
Yeah, but then we don't apply to the Port Authority.
Right. Well, yeah.
And talking about street ends, when we attended that last meeting, the head of the DPW, we dropped not a bomb, but a suggestion out there. We floated it at the street end of First Street, and they got all excited about it. They felt warm and fuzzy about it.
Yeah.
So we want to pursue that a little more, Chris.
That Vanessa, was it Vanessa that was?
Vanessa was like,
Okay, good. I know that there's a meeting coming up with another meeting with Race, design progress meeting. Is that right? I know I missed the last one, the kickoff meeting, but I think there's
notification yet.
I got a notification right after the other meeting, like they scheduled the next meeting right away. No, that's.
All right, we'll address that.
I'll look for it. I'll mention if I find it. Go. Sorry.
Can I also address a question? Would water quality issues be on the table? Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have.
I wonder if Joe, if your group has any projects in mind dealing with water quality, measurements of certain things. I'm just throwing that out.
All right, we'll address that under water quality. So let's move forward. Shellfish Commission, Steve Bartish is here. Steve.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have no report. We had no meeting last month. We had 2 commissioners down with COVID who've recovered and 2 commissioners who are out on COVID-related business. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. Eat Norwalk Shellfish.
Yeah, are you down people on that commission?
We're down. Yes.
Who actually is on the commission now? Yourself, Matafari, Pete,
and Satch.
Okay.
Nick Sachinelli, correct?
Tara's no longer on there?
Correct.
And Steve, Nick Sachinelli?
Yes, sir. Senior,
yeah. All right, we'll move to committee reports, mooring and harbor safety. Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under moorings, renewal applications for the 2022 season have started. The committee will monitor and address any startup issues and concerns. We sent out an email communication to each applicant explaining the procedures to renew application for the new season. I met with acting Harbor Master Bruce Lavallo to review applications and establish procedures for the season. And let me tell you, Bruce is right in the middle of this, and he really impressed me. He knows a lot about what's going on with the moorings. He's a big help, and he's my eyes and ears on the water. So I really depend on him a lot. So we have a good relationship. We're going to have a good communication, and I think it's going to work out very well.
In that end, our online mooring is not new anymore. And Bruce is committed to make a very proactive presence within not only the city moorings per se, but also in the managed fields to make sure that we're getting a good count and that everyone is documented properly. He's got the stickers on, they're in the mail, right, Bruce? For
just like the check.
Right. For application and utilization. So I'm very excited about Bruce's tenure moving forward and the things he's going to accomplish on our behalf.
I am as well, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, harbor safety, Dennis?
Harbor safety, the committee is not aware of any issues or concerns regarding harbor safety at this point. My report.
Any needs for additional buoys out there with the upcoming work that's going to be done? Do we need to put work zone buoys, or we rely on the contractor to do that when they're in motion doing repairs and work. I'm guessing the burden would be on them, but we might want to consider making that a requirement like they do on street jobs, work zone. And if there's any special conditions that have to be met by the boating community because it's a work zone, we should be publishing that as well moving forward. Bruce is also doing an extremely good job of communicating to the boating community. He's posting constantly. He's putting out very good information that all boaters need to be reinforced about. And, you know, I'm very happy with the way things are going early in his tenure.
Where are those things being posted, John? So we can all.
On Facebook right now, and I think he created his own Facebook page as well to do some of that stuff.
Bruce, should Bruce contact Coast Guard to indicate he's the point man?
Say again?
I could do that, John.
Okay. Finance.
And I think anyone else that we do. I mean, I know Deep has been made aware of that. You know, you're right. Coast Guard should. Coast Guard should.
Alan?
Yeah. Our ask for the 22-23 fiscal year is in. We last year we asked for $24,000 from the city. It hadn't been credited to our account by September or October. So I raised the question, how much was approved? And by magic, $24,000 appeared in our account, which was more than we expected. We asked for $24,000 again for the 22-23 year, which I think is going to be approved as well. What the situation is, we're sitting on a lot of cash. A couple of reasons for that. One is that last year we didn't have a lot of maintenance items like buoy maintenance, buying new buoys, things of that nature that just improved the harbor. So we have money for doing those. That's sitting there because we've requested in the past. Same goes for transit moorings. If we want to move ahead with that, I think that we could afford all the tackle for that and get it painted. And
Bruce and I have discussed that, and you should hook up with him, Al, and I told him to hook up with you because you're very familiar with the dock law and how to put the system all together. And we should be looking at putting in at least the 5 that we've been talking about all in one shot. And I think it's very important that we have that accommodation for transient boats. We need to support the Maritime Center, all our restaurants, and the community at large, because everybody else is eating our lunch because we go on the other side. No, let's get them over here. And there are other marinas in other areas that are more accommodating than we are. We don't have enough facility here. So.
All right, Bruce and I'll work on that a little bit. The other piece I'd like to do is just starting right now is get together with recreation parks to see if I can convince them that they should be using DACWA as well for their transit boaters for collecting all the money in the reservations, because that would put us all on the same platform with transit moorings and the city dock, which I think would be a good way to advertise the city, because DACWA has a great web presence about all their locations where they have moorings and docks. So I think we should be a part of that. So I'm going to
part of that would be post on the docks, putting up big signage that people see as they come into our harbor, and when they do park at our limited dock space that we have there now at the visitors dock.
Yeah.
So
and there are ways they can, there are other places that manage their docks the same way we do, with the blocks of hours during the day. So that was capable of doing that, and that would work great, great with us as well. So I'll talk to the recreation parks about that.
What's the shore power situation there?
Where?
Our visitors.
City dock. Visitor dock? I don't know.
I don't think there is any.
Yeah, I don't
But that's
believe
something
there
that,
is.
that's something that should be considered.
Yeah, the fireboat is plugged in, I think. It's
On the
there.
inside, though.
Right, so I mean, I think they.
It's on the inside.
Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah. For anybody else, behind dock, I don't think there's any dock power.
Well, we should be talking to Parks and Recs about that too, putting some shore power there.
I'll get on that too. I'll
Because that'll help for more, generating more revenue. Well, we should look also at our pricing. It should be comparable to others where we go and pay. They come here, they should be paying the same.
Right.
You know, or similar. All right, thank you. Anything else, Alan?
No, yeah, the other thing is just that in talking with our grant, you know, I talked with Jessica Casey, Jess Varnasek a little, and they're really looking for the Harbor Commission to come up with, you know, visionary things for the harbor, things like guest moorings, the street ends, to really get those things moving forward.
The street ends are an untapped resource that the city already owns, and it should be developed. They're being usurped by contiguous properties.
Surely.
And we should not allow that to happen because it's at the taxpayer's expense.
So, I mean, that's something we could request grant money for, to identify those areas. We've already identified them, but come up with proposals for what to do with those street ends that would benefit the community, benefit the city. That's a project we could request funds for. And also the other thing that comes to mind too is just relocating the harbor emergency response location for the police and the fireboat. Ultimately,
that's high on a priority.
That's something we should really try to, maybe we go RFP for a study and where that could be, and start putting some ideas together for that. So I think
actually the police department has it in their budget to do just that. And I think they had $30,000, which could have come from the pot that's sitting there. But they put it in the city's budget, in the police department's budget, and that is being controlled by the deputy chief. So it's in progress from what I understand.
My understanding is that there are, you know, billions of dollars flowing into Connecticut in the next couple of years that are going to be earmarked, and a lot of it for the harbor, city harbor. So we should really get our claws into that and put our ideas together quickly and kind of flesh that out a little bit.
No question about it. But we need to be in better communication with the city because we're oft times at cross purposes. We need to have a unified, good of the whole, you know, momentum going forward. We can't be working at cross purposes. While you're up, you're on the podium there. How about the newsletter and website?
No activity.
Okay. Water quality, Joe.
Yep, John, thank you. At our last meeting, we had Dick Harris report that the mitten crabs that they had found in Westport had probably hibernated. He saw no extras. He saw no movement. This is a freshwater crab for those of you that are interested, but it comes out into the harbors and then it goes back upstream to mate and reproduce. As far as we know, it has not gotten into the Norwalk and Silvermine rivers yet, but it appears as though it's just a matter of time. The major part of the meeting, we had a presentation by Brittany Becky, who is with the USGS. This is the federal group that has been monitoring water quality at 3 stations in the Norwalk Harbor. And one of the monitoring, all of the stations have a surface monitor and a bottom monitor. Now, what I want to point out to this group is this is the way it should be done, not the way DOT did it. Because if you're going to do a turbidity measurement, there should be one near the surface, usually a half a meter or a meter from the surface, and then the same thing on the bottom. They put a meter on a floating dock mid depth, which means at some points it might be getting in 4 feet of water. In another point, it might be getting in 8 feet of water. So it's a variable which gives you inconclusive data. I also asked Brittany if they do outside testing for other programs. And the reason I'm asking that is I don't want to see DOT doing the measurement. That's like putting the fox in a hen house and telling them to guard it. It makes no sense to me. When they could hire somebody like USGS to come in and do it right. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Well,
So-
something like that should be third party or open assessment,
Absolutely.
where you're getting lifetime information that we can all react to as the situation
Absolutely.
arises.
And if any of you want the data that they have, you can download anytime. It's live time data. And the beauty of it, I went on just to see where water temperature is. I don't know if any of you have been down near the upper harbor, but it is frozen. And when Brittany, I had a conversation, I said, Brittany, that's the fresh water that's freezing, not the salt water. And she said, how'd you know that? I said, well, 13 years of doing water quality monitoring using a meter. And the salt water won't freeze until the water temperature gets around 24 degrees. And we're not there yet. It's in the 30s. So that's where we are as far as where the ice is going to be. So if we get cold weather, then we should start to see the salt water freezing. But it's usually, for us, it's around 24 degrees. And then the ice moves south beyond the Maritime Aquarium. Any questions?
Yes, Joe, can I ask you a technical question on this bottom and top meter?
Yeah.
Is it a sequential measurement that is made between the top and the bottom?
It's a differential.
Oh, so what they do is you measure simultaneous, but then do you measure the delta of how fast the sediment occurs?
No, you should be measuring the delta of what the bottom one is getting, and then the delta on what the top one is getting, not an average of the two, because it all depends on the sediment size as to what is floating up.
That's
and
correct.
Other sediments will stay in the bottom. The way they did it, their turbidity meter was off the bottom. So they're going to register automatically less than what the bottom turbidity would pick up. Make sense?
So we measured on the top. We measured the DOT measured what, about 2 or 3 inches, 4 inches above on the surface?
I don't know how far down it was, but they said it was on a floating dock. They never told me what the depth was, but if it's on a floating dock, it's an extra variable.
Yeah. Bruce, wasn't it one of them down in the police dock?
One of the floating docks, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how far down that was positioned?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, and that accuracy becomes critical because when they start digging, if it's very fine sediments, it might pick it up on the surface. But if it's heavy coarse, the bottom one will pick it up. And that's the one that should trigger the alarm first, because that's where most of the sediments will drift down to. And it's the police dock, for example, that could get hit the heaviest with sediment filling in.
Well, they're going to have a curtain erected, and it's anything outside that
Correct.
area of work that
Correct,
we're
but
concerned about. We don't want it
they-
to get down to the shellfish area.
Correct. They admitted, John, that there's a strong current and they were hoping the curtain could stop the flow. And that's why I have concerns. And if you look at the USGS stations, I love reading those. I try to get on once a week just to see where they are at turbidity. And right now, it's down near zero, except every once in a while, you'll see a spike. And that's probably when a tugboat goes up the river or a barge or something.
The question is, how long does that spike occur?
In some cases, it's less than an hour. And that's why having live time, when I ask them the question, who's going to monitor this if you're not going to have it live time so that anybody can monitor from desk? They said our engineers. So they're going to have to take time away from their job to go in, log on, and monitor the data. And in that period of time alone, you could have a slug going out into the harbor.
Well, I know they didn't want to stop work operation, and that's
Correct.
the question that we had.
Correct. Yeah, I have concerns. Any other questions? But again, it's the fox guarding the hen house that makes me worry here. And USGS, Brittany checked with her supervisors. They can set up for other agencies and stuff like that to do the monitoring for them. I don't know how much they charge. She didn't know. It would depend on how many probes they would put out and how frequently they'd have to be checked on and so forth. But it is an option. And I keep hearing from Jeff, well, we don't want to slow them down. No, we don't, but we want it done right. And the scientist in me just cringes. You know that feeling, John.
Yes. Jeff's got a question.
So we'll work with you, Joe, between now and the public hearing to develop the proper recommendation for this. And my thought on this, and we can discuss it in the recommendations, is that we shouldn't set a precedent whereby the applicant is relieved of its responsibility for a construction project, and it's left up to the people who are concerned about it to do the monitoring for them. So I think we have to factor that into our recommendation.
Right, but it like John said, we should go to they should be responsible for contacting an outside agency to do the monitoring.
It all should be third party, because that's the only way you're going to get a reality that's going to be protection for our.
And they should do it according to specific standards that are
common practice. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Anything else, Joe?
I'm finished. Thank you.
And your meeting is next week?
Our meeting is next week. Yeah.
All right, great. Bridges is just a standing comment there. We've already discussed the bridges. And before I go to public comment, planning and zoning, Michelle was sent a presentation by Linnell Jones, which I believe was distributed to all the harbor members for review. I like to say, it looks like it was very well done, very, very much documented. And hopefully that went to water quality. And if it has not, Michelle, can you make sure that water quality gets it forwarded to them, please? Most of it relates to water quality, so that's where it belongs. The only thing that's a little troubling to me is the ambiguity of when a permit is pulled. Like, there's no consistency. In other words, you pull a permit in 2015, and yet you feel that you don't have a need to pull a permit in 2017 or 18 or 19 when work is being done. And I think that comes under our house, that we need to look at that part of it. And we're going to need, I believe, the health department, and that's through water quality, because that's the liaisons there, and to weigh in on it. And P&Z needs to make a determination what they feel they may need. And I think DEEP has rules and regulations that were denoted in this presentation. And again, you know, it's something that we can do some research on. And right now we're doing extremely heavy lifting. This project should be looked at in the future after we get through with some of the other heavy lifting that we're doing, Jeff, to look at the state statutes and the like that were mentioned there, so we can get some clarity, and more so that they have the clarity of what is needed moving forward when they do projects on that area. So having said that, then I will now move to public comment if there's someone that wants to say something. I see we have like 3 people from the public on the call.
Linnell has her hand up.
Okay, Linnell,
She just has to unmute herself.
you got to unmute yourself, Linnell.
Okay, oh, thank you. And I can put my picture up there. Oh, hold on too. I want to thank all of you. I looked back and I reread all the minutes from 2021, and I thought I needed to restate my concern. And I think that looking into it in depth, as John suggested, will be good for all of us, including public education. I thank all of you. I wish you a happy new year. I know there's a lot going on, and I think public education and getting the public behind what's important is important for all of us. Anything I can do, I really want to help. I thank you for addressing conflicts of interest. John, as you know, it's not the first time, it's the second time I brought this up on this committee. But I think, you know, again, to quote someone, we can do better. And I thank you all. I'm going to continue to watch these meetings. I believe in public engagement, and I believe in standing back on conflicts of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
There's 2 people on. If you'd like to participate in the public comment, please raise your hand and then we will bring you over to speak. Not seeing any other hands.
Okay, so let's move on to approval of the minutes, please. Does anybody have any corrections or changes to the minutes, John Crespo?
Well, the corrections were made and I sent them out to Michelle so they can be posted.
Okay, anybody have?
I think I got one. I got 3 of them. John Pinto and Miss Jones, and I believe was it Jeff? Someone else. Those were made.
Okay, so put a motion and we'll approve the minutes, please. John?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
John, I abstain. John?
Okay, Dennis. Yep. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move.
All right, so perfect. Anybody wants us free fall anything off the record, shut the record down. The meeting is adjourned. Again, Bruce, you've been doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you, Chairman.
Reminder on that deep meeting, February 17th.
Right, that's the public.
No, this is sorry, not DPW. The DPW meeting on the East Norwalk docks is February 17th with Race, with the designer.
Now, what time is that?
I think I saw it was 11. They send out the invite right after the last meeting back in December.
All right, so if you can send me a copy of that.
I'll forward it to you. Yeah, I think I still have that open.
And
me too. Do I need that too?
Sure, I'll forward it to you.
Thanks.
Well, Alan,
anybody else have any thing you want to?
Alan, if you can send me an email with your phone number.
Got it.
To Norwalk Harbor Master at yahoo.com.
At what?
Share his
.com?
info.
Yahoo? At,
At yahoo.com.
Yep.
And we'll hook up. And then if anybody wants to go on Facebook to my name, Bruce Lavallo, that's the page I set up for right now. And I'm just throwing a lot of info out there. Pictures, just trying to get the public informed.
You
Repeat
guys,
that again. Repeat that again, Bruce.
For the Facebook page, it's under
Yes.
my name, Bruce Lavallo. Check it out. We're just it's a lot of pictures and whatever I can put out there. At least let the people know there is a harbor master.
what you should do, Bruce, if you can, is put some links.
Yeah, I will.
Talk with Alan about that.
Yeah.
He's tuned into that. Put links to wherever he feels that we should be.
I started this a couple of days ago, and I think I'm already up to like 70 people have jumped in.
We could link the Harbor Commission website to you too.
Yeah. That's all I got.
All right, guys.
But John, just one quick question. It's a point of something I found out probably pure serendipitously. If everyone knows, maybe somebody might already know it, and how to unmute your mic is just push the space bar if you wanted to talk, and then release it.
Yeah, so that's a temporary, it's Alt A to turn it on and off, but yeah.
If you're muted,